Hey guys, in this session let us see the high level of Oracle Goldengate 23 AI architecture. So we'll see the difference between the older architecture and the current architecture. Oracle has completely changed the way how Oracle Goldengate behaves in the current architecture compared to the older architecture. So Oracle has shifted from classic architecture to microservices. So what is meant by microservice? It is a small set of service, to be simple. Okay, so let us just take an example. So we are using a mobile app and we are using e-commerce Amazon app. Okay, and what we need to do, if we need to access the app, first we need to log in, we need to search the product, and then we'll choose the product, then add it to the cart, then after the payment an order will generate, right? So we don't bother what is happening in the back end, right? We bother only on the front end, so about the login details and the product details. Okay, so whatever request that you are giving on the application, an API gateway will be there. Okay, so this is an application interface which acts as an intermediate between the backend, which means the databases, the application components and everything, and the front end. Okay, so once I search for the product, the API will give the request, or it will send the request to each and every services on the backend, and it will fetch the details from the database and give the information to the end user. Right, so here if you see, we have user service to authenticate the user, product service to provide all the products on the application, and order service after the product payment is completed, an order will be generated, order ID will be generated. So for that, separate order service is there, and every service are accessing to individual databases. Right, so this is not specific to Goldengate. I'm just giving you a real-time example to understand it in a simpler way. Okay, and in the older architecture, how these components were managed, all these components will be tightly coupled. Okay, what is meant by tightly coupled? So if one service gets failed, okay, all the other services may get impacted, right? So if I need to bring down one service, then I need to bring other services as well. So this was a challenge, right? But if you see, the name itself says microservice. So in microservice, user service will be a separate microservice, and product service will be a separate microservice, and order service will be a separate microservice. So if I need to patch this auth DB, other databases may not get impacted, say for example. Okay, so I can have an isolation, right? I can maintain this authentication DB separately and without bothering about product and order DB. So you can take the multi-tenant example, right? So in Oracle 12c, Oracle has introduced multi-tenant databases where multiple container databases will be there, one root container and multiple pluggable database containers, and it was very easy for managing all those pluggable databases. So if I need to maintain and manage the one pluggable database, say for example, so these are different pluggable databases, auth DB and product DB and order DB. Okay, everything are pluggable databases. So if you need to patch one PDB, auth DB, then I don't need to bother about product or order databases. So they will function smoothly, and they will process all the requests which were given by the end user. Right, so end user always gives the input, and this API application interface sends the request, and the backend all the data will be fetched, and the output will be given by the computer. Right, so this is how the processing happens. So likewise in Goldengate we have different components. Okay, each and every components have their isolation layer. Okay, and all those components are individual microservices which are managed separately. Okay, so that if one components get failed, the other components may function. Okay, there is no impact for the other components because of one component failure. Okay, here are the descriptions of all these components that I explained. Okay, so there is nothing related to Oracle Goldengate which is mentioned here. Okay, but for simplicity I'm just adding all these information. So this is API gateway. This handles the request from the client and route them to the appropriate service. Okay, so in Oracle Goldengate we have REST API, which is the one which handles all the requests, and it will send them to the appropriate service. Okay, and I will explain REST API in the later sessions. So coming to all the different service, we have user service, product service and order service. So user has its responsibility to manage all the authentication details. Product service handles the product catalog, and order service handles the order details, and notification service handle the SMS and email. And we have each and every we have different databases for each and every microservice. Okay, so likewise Oracle Goldengate has different services for each and every specific set of tasks. Okay, now we'll see those components. So if compare to older architecture, we have a lot of new services added. Okay, so microservice have replaced all those components completely. So if you see all these transparent boxes, right? So all these transparent boxes are deprecated, or they are no longer used in 23 AI. Okay, so we have GGSEI, manager, data pump, and on the target we have collector. Okay, so what is GGSEI? GGSEI is a command line tool where we do all the administration tasks like adding extract, adding replicate, adding trail path, and managing the credential store, managing the user ID alias, and a lot of other activities that we do using GGSEI in the older Goldengate versions. Okay, so this Goldengate SEI tool, GGSEI tool, is replaced by admin client in the 23 AI version. Okay, admin client is the command line tool that we use almost 90 to 95% of our Goldengate journey. Okay, so even in your organizations, always you will be interacting with this admin client for typing all the commands. Okay, so this admin client will be connected to the admin service. Okay, so this admin service, you can consider this is a microservice. Okay, so this admin service is responsible for all the administration tasks. Like when you're adding an extract, in the backend, this admin service will be responsible for adding those extract. When you're adding a trail file to this extract, this admin service will be responsible. So likewise, for adding replicate, for managing the credential store, for checking the stats, for checking the performance information, for monitoring all the components, everything will be managed by admin service. So you can either use admin client, which is a command line tool, or you can use a web interface. So Oracle has introduced a new browser web interface, which will be very easy to handle all these services. Okay, we can use different other tools as well that I will explain later. So this admin client is the replacement for GGSEI, and in the backend, this admin service will be responsible for fulfilling all the requests which we are giving in the form of commands. Okay, and we have performance metric service. Okay, if you see the name itself, you can understand performance metric. So it collects all the metrics related to the performance, like the number of processes related to Goldengate, the load or the resource utilization of Goldengate, and a lot more than that. It has a lot more information than that. Okay, so to be simple, it contains the process and resource information. For if you understand what is performance, you can easily understand this. Okay, so this is a specific service which only collects the metrics related to performance, nothing else. Okay, so this makes life easier for the data DBA. Right, so in the older versions, we need to manually check each and every performance metrics to monitor the performance. Okay, but in microservice, Oracle has completely isolated, or it has created a separate service for the for collecting the performance metrics. So this is another microservice. So okay, and the next one is manager. So this manager is the orchestration process, which is very important. Right, so without the manager, we cannot do anything in the older version. So the replacement of manager is service manager in 23 AI. So service manager is the one which will be responsible for all the deployments. Okay, so we call in microservice, we call every application that we are implementing in the Goldengate as deployment. So in the previous slide, we seen different services like product service, order service, authentication service. Right, so if you are deploying Goldengate for all these different applications, right, so I need a separate deployment. For product, I need one deployment. For order, I need another deployment. For authentication, I need another deployment. So replication happens in an isolation manner. So product deployment will be replicated from product database, source product database, to the target product database. So for that I need a separate deployment. Okay, so all these deployments can be handled by one service manager. Okay, so this is a one to many relationship. One service manager can orchestrate multiple deployments. Okay, this is kind of an orchestra, right? So if you see in a music orchestra, multiple musicians will be there, some 100 to 500 musicians, and one orchestrator will be there in the front. He will be just shaking his hands with a stick, and all the musicians will compose the music, right? So similar to that, this service manager is the orchestra or the composer who will handle all the other services. Okay, so specifically it is used to manage all the deployments, to create the deployment, to monitor the deployment, to manage the deployment, to stop the deployment. Okay, and we have distribution service. Okay, so distribution service is the replacement of data pump. Okay, in the older versions we used multiple data pump processes for pumping all the data from the trail file. So it is specifically related to performance, right? To improve the performance, we add this optional process. But in 23 AI, distribution service is not optional, it is mandatory. So this distribution service is one replacement for all the multiple data pumps that we use in the older architecture. So in the older architecture we can use multiple data pump processes, but in 23 AI this one distribution service can handle multiple requests, and it also acts as a network path. Okay, so we need to create a path connection, and this distribution service will identify the path connection. It will send all the trail files over the network. Okay, so we have a REST API service, as we already mentioned. So this REST API is the one which will be responsible for acting as the network path, and also we have this distribution path will put all the trail file information, and the receiver service will get all the information. Okay, so what is a receiver service? Receiver service is kind of replacement for the collector process. So collector process is the one which we were using on the older versions to receive all the source details, right? So if you see this trail file, which is a data file, we can say in Goldengate terms. So this trail file collects all the it stores all the data, right? So from the source database, from the online read log file, this extract process is the one which will capture all the changes that are happening. So this is the first one. Okay, then all the changes that are captured by the extract will be returned to the trail files. Then distribution process collects all the information related to the trail files, and it will send all the trail file information to the target via path connection. And we have an operator user which will be responsible for the network interactions. Okay, and if you see, receiver service collects all the data from the source trail file information, and it will write it to the target trail file or remote trail file, we can say. And replicate process will collect all the trail file data, and it will apply it to the target database. Okay, so this is how the architecture works in the high level. Okay, so the only change, the components which were not changed in 23 AI are extract and trail files. That's it. Here trail files and replicate on the target side. Okay, so these three components are not changed in 23 AI. So we had extract in the older versions. Also in the current version we have extract, and also replicate we had in the older versions. Current version also we have replicate. Rest all other services are not used. So if you see all the transparent boxes, these are not used, and all the shaded boxes are used in 23 AI. Okay, and yeah, service manager is the main process. Okay, so this is a one-to-many relationship. So I will explain it in the next slide. if you see, service manager is handling two different deployments. So here we have two databases, okay, and in source we are deploying two different deployments. Okay, you can take an example from the previous slide. So this is product deployment and this is orders deployment, say for example. So all the information related to the product should be replicated via deployment A from the source to the target. So likewise, all the deployment information from the source to the target, all the data related to order should be replicated from source to target via deployment B. And if you see, deployment A is having a separate set of directories and deployment B is having a separate set of directories. But if you see in the older versions, both deployment A and deployment B will be having the same set of directories. Okay, so if we delete these directories in the older versions, then both the deployments get failed. Both order and product deployment, product and order deployment gets failed. But in this microservice, since there is an isolation, right? So I have a separate set of management of all these deployments. So if this particular deployment A is down, then deployment B will function smoothly without any impact. So this is the advantage, right? So in older versions we had that challenge, right? So if I need to perform any maintenance, if I need to shut down, or if the deployment gets impacted related to product, I don't bother. Order deployment will not get bothered. It will function smoothly. Okay, so this is one-to-many relationship. One service manager is handling two different deployments. So likewise, you can handle 10 deployments as well for one service manager, and also the vice versa. So it's not vice versa. I can create another specific Oracle Goldengate installation, and I can also create another different service manager which can handle another 10 deployments. It is not that mandatory to create only one service manager and handle multiple deployments. Okay, so I can again install Goldengate on a new software home, and I can create another service manager and handle another 10 deployments. So likewise, I can handle multiple service manager also as an orchestration service with multiple deployments. Okay, but multiple service manager cannot handle one deployment, so that you need to keep in mind. Okay, so the purpose of using microservice itself will be useless when you are having multiple service manager handling one deployment. So there is no use. You are just overutilizing all the resources. But handling with one service manager, handling multiple deployments with one service manager will be efficient. That is sufficient for even a production setup. Okay, and these are all the service interfaces that can be used to access these components. Okay, so we have command line tool, admin client, we have browser, which is a web-based GUI interface, okay, which is cloud ready. So Oracle has introduced this because of cloud, Oracle Cloud. Okay, but in older versions we don't have any browser interface. Then we can use OEM, we can use PL SQL, we can use scripts, we can use MA interface. So there are a lot of different ways that we can access these components. Okay, so I will explain all the theoretical part in a detailed manner in the later sessions about all the architectural components that we had seen. Okay, so thanks for watching.